So it sounds like you're saying that by and large, you know, you were doing some really interesting stuff for 30 years, huh?
I did, and I think that helped to hone my design skills, which have transferred to my painting and to my art. And I look at my art as being well designed as well as very painterly, and I find that to be very pleasing to me as an artist.
Yeah. Do you think it's quite different from what you used to do when you
Oh,
were
very different.
in your
Very
20s?
different. Yeah, very different. The art that I do now is very free and very...
We have an example there.
Yeah, this particular piece is called Approaching Heaven. And I use my white space as my negative space. I use a lot of white space on my canvases. And I paint using a variety of techniques. That particular painting has a lot of glazes that are built up to create the dark blues that are at the top. I use a lot of paint that's mixed out of 3 primary colors with painting knives. And then the squiggles with squeeze bottles. I've got about 150 different colors of plastic squeeze bottles that I do the very free lines. So the painting is very free and loose. There are no barriers or boundaries. Where in advertising, there were always barriers and boundaries to work with that made the work creative and challenging. But within the painting world, the barriers and boundaries are ones that I would create, not necessarily what other people are saying I have to live within. So it's revealing that I'm able to work with that type of lack of constraint, and that I'm having some success at doing that. It's fun.
Yeah, so I'm interested in going back to your transition.
Okay.
Because that's what we focus on in Alivelihood. And you told me that after 9/11 you got laid off.
Yes, I was working for a travel company at that time as their director of creative services. And being involved with the company at the level I was in, I saw that the travel bookings had dropped off significantly and that cancellations were skyrocketing. And I realized that a position such as mine would be very short-lived in the company. And sure enough, I was laid off, and I freelanced for a while, and I enjoyed that, but I realized that at some point I'd like to get back to either my musical roots or my painting. And I was able to transition into the music a little bit, and then that led me to the decision to try to paint again.
Yeah, so I know you're a drummer, and you've been doing that for a long time too. Huh?
Yes, my dad was a drummer, and as one of his avocations, that wasn't his vocation, but as one of his avocations, he was a very good drummer, and we had a lot of good time. And as a young guy, I played a lot of pots and pans in the kitchen.
Did you ever get instruction?
A little bit, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but most of it has been self-taught, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've told me that you play with, are you playing with a band now?
No, not currently.
But you have done that, and you've had gigs over the years.
Yes. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I've played with different bands, and we've had a lot of good exposure and good times, and played with some very talented people.
What kind of music do you play?
Well, the last band I was in was called Alter Ego, and we wrote a lot of our own music. And we had some phenomenal players in the band, and 2 fabulous female lead singers, and we played some cover tunes as well. But we did a mix of rock, country, alt-rock type stuff, that some recognizable stuff, but our stuff was very fun and upbeat and pleasing, so danceable.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're a creative guy in different respects.
I
then,
am,
huh?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I wouldn't have fit in the business mold my dad was thinking of.
Yeah.
I knew it, and he eventually realized that.
Yeah.
And my mom saw that all along, so.
Right. Yeah, so unlike probably a lot of artists, though, it sounds like you've really been able to make a go of being an artist.
I have. I have. When I first started to paint, that was an unknown. It was
whether you would be able to
Yeah.
manage financially.
Yeah, and I think my first paintings were, when I look at them now and look back, are nowhere near at the level that I'm painting at now. I think my work is considerably better at this point. I've achieved the level of success of selling a lot of my work in the last year. And my current body of work is really something I'm very proud of and continuing to focus on. And I'm doing a lot of marketing on my own right now. And it's a challenge to do that and also have enough time to paint. And so I'm balancing those two different disciplines. I'm back into the advertising world of doing creative marketing for myself, and then I'm disciplining myself to make sure I have enough time every day to paint. So I wear two different hats.
Yeah. So I think you described to me that you do schedule your day
Yes.
in a certain way that helps you to be organized and motivated, right? How do you do that?
Well, I can paint 7 days a week if I choose to, and sometimes I do. Because I'll find that some days during the week I can't reach the people that I'd like to reach for the marketing part of it. And so I'll devote some other time to either reading some books about painting and the techniques I'm trying to learn, or I'll just go down into my studio and work. I generally work on 3 to 4 canvases at a time. And they're all in different stages of transition. So I work in acrylics, which dry very quickly. So I'm able to go from painting to painting to painting, and then also step back and see what I've done and see where I want to go. And that allows me to structure my day in such a way that I'll get up in the morning, I check my emails quickly, I do some painting. Around lunchtime, I do some marketing by looking at who I want to try to reach that day. And in the afternoon, I try to reach different people. And then at the end of the day, I'm doing some painting as well.
Yeah. So you have the independence and flexibility, really, to structure your own schedule. But if you don't structure it, you probably wouldn't get nearly as much done, huh?
I'm fortunate to be organized, and I think I get that from my dad, who is a very organized individual. And I get that structure that allows me to stay focused on some of the things I need to do. I'm not a procrastinator, and I don't put things aside. And I set goals. And I think the only negative is having my studio in my home, where it's very easy to do that. But my studio is on one level, my computer is on another level, and it forces me to change position, so to speak, and get up and physically do something and make that move.
Yeah. So do you have some family members who are at home during the day?
No. No, my children are all grown. They're out of the home, doing their own careers, and my partner, she works, so she's out of the house.
Yeah. So you've got privacy, and you can focus and concentrate. Huh?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So, I'm curious, just to back up a little bit, so when you were laid off, I imagine that was a really difficult time, as it would be for anybody.
It was.
So do you remember, having some self-doubts or?
Very much so. I mean, after having...
What was that like?
After having done something for such a long period of time, it was a serious blow to my self-esteem and self-confidence. It was also a very significant turning point as to what did I want to do next, what could I do next. I loved my job. I loved doing the creative work that I was doing, and I loved working with the people that I was working with. All very talented people.
So it was a real loss for you on many levels.
It's a loss of a fraternity of creative people. It's a loss of sense of self within that environment. And all of a sudden you're going to an office, and you have the camaraderie of all these individuals, and the next day you're staring at 4 blank walls wondering what to do next.